Hello and good evening, good morning. Um, so let us begin with the usual opening recitations. Starting on page 1. Maybe Mei Ma, if you can read page 1 and page 2.
Sorry, Dr. Lai, page 1 to where?
Page 1 and page 2.
1 and 2, okay.
Yeah, the aspiration and engagement bodhicitta.
One time each.
Yes, one time each in English.
All mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness. May they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Bodhi. Thus, until I achieve Buddha, I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind.
Now back to page 1. Dala Tawa Jibe Nopar Jibe Kek Tarbadan Tamje Kempe Baridu Jobra Jeba Tam Jege Su Jibe Manang Kadang Nyampe Senjin Tamje Dewa Tan Den Tunga Tangre Nerdu Lana Mepaya Dabra sobe chanchu rinpoche tomra cha dhala thangwa jebe dra nobar jebe kek tarbada tamche kempe baridu chobra jeba tamche gisa jebe manang kadang nyampe senchen tamche dewa tangde Dongya Dandre Nerdu Lana Me Payang Dabra Sobe Chanchu Rinpoche Tobra Jai Dala Thangwa Jebe Drai Nopar Jebe Kek Tarbada Tamche Kempe Paridu Jobra Jeba Tamche Gisu Jebe Manang Kadang Nyampe Senchen Tamche Dewa Tang Ten Dongya Dandre Nerdu Lana Me Payang Dabra Zobe Chanchu Rinpoche Tobra Jai Te De Sama Gege Bardu Longa Yisum Gewala Ko Mashi Bardu Longa Yisum Gewala Ko Du Dering Ne Zung Te Nima Santa Samji Bardu Longa Yisum Gewala Ko May, continuing on page 5 and 6.
Page 5, 6, okay. In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until Bodhi is reached. By the merit of generosity and other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all wandering beings. May all mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from the bias of attachment and aversion.
Back to page 5. Sonje Judan Sugi Chonam La Chanchu Paridu Dhani Kyabsu Chi Dhagi Jinsu Gibe Sonangi Rola Penchir Sonje Drupra Ju Sonje Judan Sugi Chonam La Chanchu Paridu Dhani Kyabsu Chi Dhagi Jinsu Gibe Sonangi Drola penchir sanje drubraju, sanje judan sogi chunamla, chanchu bardu dani kyabsu chi, dagi jinsu gibe sonanki, drola penchir sanje drubraju, manang kadang nyambe senchen tamje, dewa dan, dewe gindan tempra girji, dungyao dang dungyao gi, gyudan dewa girji, dungyao mepe dewa dangme dewa girji, niring chadang nidang dewe tangyao la nebra girji, manang kadang nyambe senjen tamje dewa dang, dewe gindan tempra girji, dungyao dang dungyao gi, gyudang dewa girji, dungyao mepe dewa dangme dewa girji, niring chadang nidang dewe tangyom la nebra girji, manang kadang nyampe senchen tomje dewa dang, dewe gindan tempra girji, dungyao dang dungyao gi, gyudang dewa girji, dungyao mepe dewa dangme dewa girji, niring chadang nidang dewe tangyom la nebra girji. Now, page 13, homage to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. May, can you do that as well? I'm starting on page 13 in the middle.
The middle of the page, you protector.
Yes.
You protector who possesses great kindness, all-knowing teacher, perfect one, basis of oceans of merit and qualities, homage to you, the Tathagata. Purity, the cause of freedom from attachments, virtue that liberates from the lower realms. This alone is the sublime ultimate reality, homage to the Dharma that pacifies. Having been liberated, you show the path to liberation. Devoted to the moral precepts, you are a field of perfect qualities. Homage to you, the sublime Sangha.
Gumpo tuje jeden pa, tamche genpa tumpa po, sonam yunten gyatso shi, deshin shela tase lo, tabe docha tawe gyu, gewe nginsun le drushin, chikdur tondam chugyur pa, shigyur chola tase lo, chone towe lam yan tong, La pa da la ram tu gu, shingi damba yunden shing, genden la yang cha se lo. Now we'll take a few moments to simply allow body and mind to find some quiet, to allow body and mind to settle into their own places. To settle evenly. And if you choose to do so, to rely on the experience of breath, on the mindfulness of breath, breath arising and ceasing. Breath as a property of the body. As breath arises from within the body, note the qualities of breath arising, and note the qualities associated with breath ceasing. Coming and going. When breath arises, there is clarity, there is sharpness, precision. When breath dissolves, there is letting go. There is opening up to spaciousness and rest. Then in the next moment, again, clarity, sharpness, a wakeful quality. And in the next moment, letting go, spaciousness, at ease. In this way, first beginning by paying attention to the felt sense, the physical felt sense of breath arising and ceasing. From there, the body settles. As the body settles, the mind settles. Both settling evenly, both settling quietly. As the mind becomes more quiet, there is yet a quality of sharpness and vividness that is also present. So this quietness is not a state where the mind is blank or spaced out or unaware, but this quietness, within this quietness, the all-encompassing silence, there is a vividity, there is a sharpness, there is a clarity that pervades in all directions. Empty and yet aware, empty and yet luminous. you find your mind wandering off, then come back to this breath. Turn your attention once again to the experience of breath, arising and ceasing. From breath to breath to breath. Gently tighten your focus. And then release that tightening. You can experiment with this experience of breath if necessary. None of what you hear me say is to be considered as commandments or orders. They are prompts, suggestions. Prompts and suggestions that you should use skillfully, experiment with, play with. So look into this experience of breath, look into this mindfulness of breath. Perhaps even play with this breath, slowing it down, speeding it up. The point is not, in the end, whether breath is fast or slow. The point is to recognize what is the felt sense when breath is deep, when breath is shallow, when breath is soft, when breath is hard, when breath is long, and when breath is short. Especially initially in the beginning, it is entirely skillful to develop some curiosity towards the different types of breath and what it feels like to experience them close up. So too much unskillful detachment at the beginning is not helpful in establishing a meditation practice. At the beginning, you need skillful attachment. Skillful attachment to the object of focus. In this case, it is not oxygen. That's not the object. It's not the oxygen, the air that necessarily comes in and out of your body. But rather the object is the felt sense. How does it feel? What are the sensations that arise as breath arises? And what are the sensations that is experienced when breath ceases, when breath is long and breath is short, when breath is hard and when breath is soft, subtle or obvious, smooth or jagged. And all of this against a background of allowing body and mind to settle naturally. Now please turn to the Praises to Tara text. Starting on page 1 of that text. We will chant in English together. Utterly and sincerely I pay homage to exalted noble Tara and all the conquerors and their heirs dwelling in the 10 directions, and 3 times I offer flowers, incense, lamps, fragrance, scents, food, music, and the like. Physically and mentally conjured noble lady, your complete retinue, please accept them from beginningless time until now. The 10 non-virtues and 5 heinous sins arisen from the mind under the power of afflictive emotions. All these misdeeds I lay them bare. I rejoice in the merit of all the virtues accumulated in the 3 times by hearers, particular bodhisattvas and ordinary beings, and so forth. Please turn the wheel of dharma, of the greater, lesser, and common vehicles in accordance with the dispositions and mental capacities of sentient beings until samsara has been completely emptied out of compassion. Do not pass into nirvana. Please have regard for sentient beings sinking in this ocean of suffering. Whatever virtue I may have gathered, may it become a cause for the awakening of all. May I quickly become an excellent guide for all wandering beings. Om, homage to Tara the noble and sublime. Homage to Tara, swift and courageous, you drive away all our fears with Tara. Savior is fulfilling all aims with the Ture. With syllable Swaha we offer you homage. Homage to Tara, swift and courageous, gazes as quick as flashes of lightning. From Lord of Triloka, his face like a lotus, you rose on a billionfold blossoming stamens. Homage to you with a face that resembles a meeting of 100 full moons in autumn, and who with the brightness of stars by the thousands shine in a vast perfect light of resplendence. Homage to you, the golden-hued lady, whose hand is adorned by a blue lotus flower. Your scope of activity is giving exertion, fortitude, peace, tolerance, meditation. Homage to you, the victorious, boundless, from the Tathagata's crown emanated. Those who obtain every transcendent virtue, offsprings of victors, rely on your guidance. Homage to you, filling realms of desire, is aspect and space with the Hung and Tutara. 7-fold worlds under feet you can trample, you bring all and everything under your power. Homage to you who is worshipped by Indra, Agni, Marud, Visheshwara, and Brahma. All the Vitalas, Buddhas, Gandharvas, as well as the Yakshas give praise in your presence. Homage to you who by tread and the path sounds crush every magical heal evil forces. Right leg extended and left bent you trample, within whirling flames you are blazing intensely. Homage to you, the swift terrifying, who conquers the most tenacious of Maras. Knitting the brow on your lotus-like features, you slay every foe without an exception. Homage to you with your fingers in mudra, adorning your heart to show the three jewels. Your masses of light are beautiful swirling, connecting with every direction in circles. Homage to you from your crown manifesting joyous, majestic, brilliant garlands. With the great clangor of laughter Tuttara, demons and worlds are in your domination. Homage to you with the magnetized powers, you gather protectors of earth in assembly. With syllable hung in your brow which is frowning, you liberate every poor destitute being. Homage to you with the crescent of moon crown, while your adornments so brilliantly sparkle. And Amitabha is placed in your top knot, six ceaselessly vast rays of light radiating. Homage to you seated in flaming garlands, engulfed in a fire like the end of the kalpa. Right leg extended and left bend defeating enemy hordes with your joy-bringing swirling. Homage to you with your palms you are striking the earth while using your feet to be stamping. Regally frowning with the Hong letter, you shatter the sevenfold layers of Loka. Homage to you, blissful, virtuous, and peaceful, enjoy the domain of the tranquil nirvana. Fully possessing the Om and the Swaha, you overcome even the greatest of evils. Homage to you who, encircled by joyous, utterly smashes the forms of opponents. Clearing away with the Hong of awareness, arranges the mantra by tenfold of letters. Homage to you with feet stamping Ture, fully presenting the form of the Hong seed. You cause the three worlds to all be a tremble, including Mount Meru, Mandara, and Vindhya. Homage to you in whose hands is a deer marked, shaped like the Deva's ocean of nectar. Sound of the pet and the twice uttered Tara, without an exception dispels every poison. Homage to you who is asked for your guidance by rulers of Devas, by gods and Kinnaras. Your armor of joy, a radiant brightness, removes every nightmare and calms every quarrel. Homage to you whose two eyes are shining with brilliance like the sun and the full moon. By Tutara and with the twice chanted Hara, you clear away even infectious diseases. Homage to you who can come down completely through the array of the threefold thatness. Crowds of Vetalas, Buddhas, and Yakshas, suppressed with the two rays of blind Mother Tara. Together with this, the root mantra in praise form. These were the 21 verses of homage. So these 21 verses of praise to Tara. So Tara, as you all know, is, you could say, she is the feminine counterpart to Avalokiteshvara, or Genesik. And then interestingly, in East Asia, you could say that Tara is really known as Kuan Yin, although the direct kind of inspiration for the figure of Kuan Yin is actually Avalokiteshvara, the male figure. What is male in India, in Tibet, but somehow in East Asia, when Avalokiteshvara was first introduced to East Asia, to China, and then from China it spread to Korea, then later from Korea to Japan, and then from China to Vietnam as well. Initially, Avalokiteshvara was male, but sometime around the 12th century, which in China is Song Dynasty, within China, we see a transformation where I guess you could say Avalokiteshvara underwent a gender reassignment, as we would call it today. So he got reassigned to she. And from that point on, in China, Kuan Yin among the general public, in their hearts, Kuan Yin is a Niang Niang, they say, which means like lady, goddess, or lady. And Niang Niang is also, Niang is mother. So Niang Niang is like the mother, the lady, the court ladies, the empress and concubines, they're all called Niang Niang as well. Then children will call the mother Niang, which means mother. So from the 12th century on in East Asia, Avalokiteshvara became predominantly, or China, female. In Korea and Japan, the male Avalokiteshvara continues to today, especially in Korea. But in Japan, there was a transmission of the female Avalokiteshvara into Japan at a later time. And so particularly in the Zen traditions in Japan, there is a kind of an aspect of Avalokiteshvara Kannon, which is female. But the earlier Japanese traditions like Tendai Buddhism and Shingon Buddhism that exist to this day, for them, Kuan Yin or Kannon is predominantly male. In the Zen traditions, and the Zen traditions went to Japan around 12th century, later, at the time where Avalokiteshvara was transforming into a female figure in China. So that strand of like Avalokiteshvara as female enters Japan. And this figure of Tara never caught hold in East Asia. Even though in some Vajrayana traditions that went into China in the 8th century, during the Tang Dynasty, did have this figure of Tara as one of the deities in these like very elaborate mandala systems. But Tara, with that name, never kind of picked up a strong presence, never established a strong presence in East Asia. Instead, it's the feminized figure of Avalokiteshvara, or known as Kuan Yin, that took hold. And starting from the 12th century, it's female, and it's very much how Himalayan Buddhists, Tibetan Buddhists, Bhutanese Buddhists, when they think of Tara, what comes to them emotionally is very similar to what comes to many Chinese Buddhists when they think of Kuan Yin, and female and mother figure. So anyway, in this Tara praises, 21 praises to Tara, all 21 forms is female, but their forms really vary from what we might call pacific, peaceful, serene forms to fierce, wrathful, from one face, 2 arms and 2 legs, like you and I, to 3 faces, 6 hands, 4 legs, and different manifestations. Yeah. If you look at page 5, the beginning of, I want to just go over very quickly because there are some words or expressions here that I'm sure some of you are like curious, right? So you feel free to ask me to pause as I'm going through these verses. Don't be shy. Just unmute yourself and say, "Stop! Can you tell me what that means if I didn't bring it up?" Yeah. Even though if I didn't bring it up, probably because I don't know what it means. But you never know. Just ask. I will be honest. I would just tell you, I don't know what that means. So I've moved on. Yeah. So please, feel free to just interrupt, so to say, but you're not interrupting. So here, homage to Tara, swift and courageous. So first thing to know is that even before Tara assumed a particular physical form, the Tara mantra probably preceded the existence of Tara as a female form. And this is a very, you could say, Indian phenomenon. And for scholars, they will say this is really related to the special significance of sound in Indian culture that is traced back to like the earliest layer of Indian religion called the Vedas, right? So the Veda emphasizes sound a lot. In fact, there are certain interpretations of the Veda that say that the whole universe is the varying, the physical universe is varying degrees of the vibration of these Vedic sounds taking form. So they consider sound to be a more fundamental level of reality than even, appearances, as we Buddhists will say. Now, this is not Buddhist, but nonetheless, this is the cultural background to Buddhism arising in India. Then when Buddhism arose in India with Buddha Shakyamuni, I think it's also accurate to say, first of all, Buddha Shakyamuni would carve out a space by distinguishing what he considered to be more important. And on that level, at that stage of kind of development of, or at that stage, during the time of the historical Buddha, he didn't have that much interest and therefore did not give much of a role to this more metaphysical concern about the nature and the status of sound. Yeah, instead he did not consider that important. So you could say, to him, the existential questions is grounded in something that is more directly experiential and less speculative, right? To say that, sound underlies all phenomena, it's a form of speculation. You cannot directly prove it to someone. So it seemed like the historical Buddha, not necessarily, I would say, thinking that is nonsense, but definitely thinking that is secondary. Like no need to, like if your if what you're struggling with is this experience of dukkha, then insofar as the cessation of dukkha or suffering is concerned, these fanciful ideas about, vibration and this and that, and, the varying degrees of solidification of sound, he says that irrelevant to what he taught, like in the Four Noble Truths, right? So Buddha's teachings start with the Four Noble Truths. Yeah? At the heart of the Buddha's teachings, the Four Noble Truths. Yeah? But nonetheless, just a slight footnote. There are some geeks in this group, so for your entertainment. There is a more recent line of research that is beginning to rewrite this history of like what was ancient India like during the time of the Buddha. And this new line of thought and research, which I find rather convincing, says that actually the particular area that the Buddha came from has its own peculiar cultural, spiritual, religious ideas and commitments and world that is actually different from what became the dominant view all over South Asia, which is the Vedic tradition. Right? So there is a line of research that says the Buddha's area, this area is centered in this kingdom called the Magadha kingdom. And Magadha religion, culture, worldview, while sharing similarities with the Vedic tradition, at that point during Buddha's time, the Vedic tradition wasn't as influential and as pervasive as it eventually became when the Brahmins kind of took over cultural dominance in South Asia. So that if the Buddha didn't have much to say about the Vedic religion and Vedic traditions, it's not because he found them to be kind of irrelevant even. It's simply because it wasn't such a big deal in the area that he taught in. So he didn't have much to say about that because it was irrelevant. Yeah, so that's also kind of interesting, I think, that the Buddha, didn't have much to say about Vedic religion because, as it turns out, it was quite irrelevant to his audience. Anyway, moving on. Eventually, as the Buddhist tradition developed, so I'm now wearing sort of like my old hat, my secular college professor hat, because I find that there are things there that we can understand and help us, I believe, practice Dharma in a more meaningful way. I do think that. I'm very thankful for my training in that context. Of course, I left that context. Couldn't cut it, so renounced it and ran away. But I still find insights from that training to be incredibly helpful. Because it makes us, for one thing, less fanatical and literal. God knows the world doesn't need more fanaticism and literal readings of religious texts. If you ask me, It's like, gosh, we all could do with less of that kind of religion. Anyway, this is my own stuff. You can take it or leave it. But as Buddhism began to develop, I don't see it as a degeneration. I see it as how to translate Buddha's core message from generation to generation in a way that spoke to the audience and the place and the culture. And that's why the Buddha Dharma spread all across Asia in ways that practically none of the other Indian traditions, and there were many Indian traditions in India. What we call today Hinduism is a very recent kind of umbrella term to lump together a whole bunch of religions in a way. Because there are Hindus who believe in the proverbial, our Suzanne, right? Introduction to Eastern Religions, REL 104, I think. Was it 104? 103, yes. When we teach big courses at the University of Virginia, all of us had to, our rite of passage, as a teaching assistant, we will, teach like a mad tour of everything under the sun that is not Christian and Jewish, in like I don't know, 12 weeks. You're like rushing through this tour bus, and so when you get to Hinduism, you'll say, there are Hindus who believe in one God, and there are Hindus who believe in 3 gods. There are Hindus who believe in, 33 million gods, and there are Hindus who believe in no God. Actually, there are Hindus who don't believe in a God. Instead, they saw sound as primordial. No need for God. So under this umbrella term of Hindu, there are many, many religions, And then there were also religions who did not fall under the Hindu family, like the Jains. But you know what? And even another Indian religion that is very recent, comparatively speaking, Sikhism, right? Really, none of these Indic religions went beyond Indian borders. It never really spread anywhere. For a short period of time, Hinduism did get to Southeast Asia. Yes. And so a remnant of that is on Bali Island. There are Hindus on Bali Island. But Hindus in Bali Island are very strange Hindus by Indian standards. Because, for one thing, they eat cows. Which is like such an offensive thing in Indian Hinduism. And this is not like Bali Hinduism is like perverted. No, it's like it was a time where Hindus did not think of cows as, so holy that you cannot eat. Yeah. So anyway, Buddhism successfully went beyond South Asia, all over Asia. And that's because there was something different about Buddhism. Not necessarily superior. I'm not making those claims. Yeah? But there's something inherent about Buddhism that was not afraid to not be so dogmatic and not to be so fundamentalist and not to be so conservative, but to be able to be alive and to be able to speak to across culture, across time, because the core of the Buddha Dharma is not dogmatic. Goes back to the earliest Buddha's famous invitation. Whenever people say, hey, what do you teach? He says, come, Come and see. Come and investigate. Like, hey, Basiko, come and investigate. So this spirit of investigation, this spirit of like adaptation, this spirit of change, of being relevant. Of course, there's always a line, if you change so much until you betray the core vision of the tradition, then yeah, I think it's gone too far. Of course. This is not to say, anything goes. I'm not saying that either. But anyway, as Buddhism grew even within India, before it left India, then even within the Buddha's time, actually, already the use of what we might call mantras, or in the Bali tradition called paritas. Parita are like these verses of protection. Even though, I said, the Buddha did not accept Vedic view of sound, it being the primordial stuff of this universe. But the power of sound, even in early Indian Buddhism, it was already there. Buddha accepted that. For example, you all remember the story of Angulimala? Maybe? Have you heard of the story of Angulimala? Okay, briefly. Angulimala was eventually became the disciple of the Buddha. But he started his kind of religious spiritual training in following a different teacher. And it is said that he was very gentle. He was very, so much so that his nickname was Ahimsaka, which means the non-violent one. Ahimsa is non-violence. Gandhi's core commitment, ahimsa, right? So he was so gentle, Angulimala, that he was called Ahimsaka. But over time, it is said that jealousy from among his fellow students, and then in some telling of this story, apparently his teacher's wife was quite interested in him. Long story short, neither the students who were jealous nor the teacher's wife who was, had other thoughts about him could get what they want from him. So they accused him and framed him and made his teacher very angry with him. And so the teacher said, then the teacher was so upset with him that the teacher wanted him to kind of suffer. And the teacher said to him, for you to achieve your goals, your spiritual goals, you have to accumulate 1,000, a garland made of 1,000 human fingers. And this finger has to come from one finger from one victim. You have to kill 1,000 people. You have to kill 1,000 people. And from each of them, you cut their finger and you string that together. So eventually, so he did that. He trusted his teacher. He did that. Then his name changed from Ahimsaka to Angulimala. Mala means like necklace, rosary. Anguli, fingers. A mala of fingers. Strand together. When he had killed 999 and one more finger, I think there was a time limit that the teacher gave him. One more finger. And who did he see? He saw his mother. So on the verge of him murdering his mother, the Buddha intervened. The Buddha saw that the time is right now. So instead of the mother, he saw the Buddha. Then he thought, oh, I'm going to go after this monk and spare my mother. So he chased, It said that he ran and he ran. But the monk wasn't running, but he could never catch up with the monk. So finally, after huffing and puffing and chasing, he said, "Stop!" So the monk turned around and the monk said, "I am not running. You are the one that is running." So then the monk, turns out the monk was the Buddha. And the Buddha said, "You have been running and running and running. Now is the time to rest. Put down what you're doing and listen to me." So the Buddha gave him, taught him. So he basically from that point followed the Buddha. And it is said that eventually he achieved the fruit of the hearers and became a Shravaka Buddha. And then this story, where I'm going with this is that there's a second part to Angulimala's story, which is really interesting. It is said that one day on alms round in the village, he came by a household where a woman was having a very difficult childbirth. So Angulimala was standing outside and could hear what was going on. And this woman was having a difficult childbirth, very dangerous. And back in the day, childbirth is the major cause of death for women. Then Angulimala said, he uttered a verse. He said, "In this life, I have not harmed a single being." Which you say, wait, what about those 999? He's not talking about that lifetime. He's talking about now that he is a Shravaka Buddha, now that he has achieved the fruit of the Shravaka training. So since he has been liberated from samsara, he has not harmed anyone. Then he said, by the power of this truth, may this woman have a safe delivery and may her pain ease. And he said, and if this is true, may this come true. And that alleviated her pain. Later, when the Buddha heard about this, the Buddha said, and from now on, whoever repeats Angulimala's verse of blessing, when they are in the presence of a difficult childbirth, then by the power of Angulimala's truth and by the power of Angulimala's words, it will help women who are delivering. So in Theravada countries, they chant this Bharita of Angulimala to this day for safe childbirth. So even in way back, but here, where the Buddha kind of has the way he taught is like he says, fundamentally it's the power of truth. As in the power of truthful words. And not that words themselves have some kind of magical vibration, but it's the truth behind those words. And that's why in East Asia, the translation for mantra is literally true words, 真言 or shingon. Shingon means true words. So the power of uttering truthful words. And in this way, this underlies all Buddhist uses of mantras, dharanis, and parita. Dharani and mantra are in Sanskrit material. In Bali material, it's called paritas. In Sri Lanka, in Sinhala language, it's called pirit. So the chanting of pirit, the chanting of paritas, the chanting of dharanis, mantras, this is all true words, truthful words. So Tara's mantra is the 10-syllable mantra Om Tare Tut Tare Ture Swaha. 10 syllables. Om Tare Tut Tare Ture Swaha. We have evidence that this mantra was in circulation for a while before we have evidence of physical representation of this deity that we call Tara. So in a way, Tara first appeared, so to say, in the form of her true words. Before then, Tara forms became common and popular. Yeah. So these 21 praises to the foremost lady Tara, it is said that at the core, it's praising the 10-syllable mantra. That's why scattered throughout these verses, the tare, tutare, ture, right? It turns up. So that's why you see this. So first, homage to Tara. Yeah, it's not talking so much about the deity, but the word in that 10-syllable mantra, Om Tare, Tutare, Ture, right? So this is Tare, homage to Tare or Tara, swift and courageous. Then Tuttara, see? You drive away all our fears with Tuttara. Savior is fulfilling all aims with Ture. So Om, homage to Tara, noble and sublime. Tare, Tuttare, Ture, Swaha. With syllable Swaha, we offer you homage. Yeah, so that opening line with the 4 lines in the first verse, that's the 10-syllable mantras. Okay, now, questions or comments? Let me drink some water.
Did you say that those 4 lines are the 10-syllable mantra?
Yes, as in they're all there, including the first line of one line. Om, homage to Tara, the noble and sublime, right? Do you see on page 5?
I was reading homage to Tara, swift and courageous.
No, up, go up. Page 5.
Yeah, I'm on page 5, but my pages are not like yours, I guess.
Oh. What do you have? Oh, that's kind of...
It says homage to Tara, swift and courageous.
No, what about that? See the screen? Don't you have that in your text?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, thank you. So that's the 10-syllable?
No, hold on.
Oh.
You see Om?
Yes.
That's the first syllable. Next, yes. Tara. No, down, not that one. Down. Homage to Tara. Yeah. So that's yes. 3 syllables now. Tuttara.
Yes.
Yeah. And Ture. And Swaha.
Okay.
All together, those are the 10 syllables.
Okay.
But when you string them all together, it's not Tara Tuttara. It's Tare Tuttare. I mean, this is just, the way Sanskrit... I am not a Sanskritist. I cannot explain. Yeah, but basically when you string them all together, then is Tare and Tuttare and Ture Swaha. So Om Tare Tuttare Ture Swaha.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Thank you.
Yeah. And in the Tibetan, actually, they kept that. Chaksa Tare Nurma Pamo Tuttare Yijikpa Selma. Ture donkun jikpedroma. Swaha yige kyola dudo. So now this verse, right, is not part of the 21 verses. Yeah, this was added later on in the original text. So if you count if you count together with this verse, then it's 22 verses. But this verse, I believe it was composed by Atisha, maybe, who is famous for one of the greatest kind of devotees of Tara was Lord Atisha, who in the 11th century went from Bengal to Tibet and brought a revival of Buddhist traditions in Tibet. So sometimes this verse here is said to summarize all the 21, to encapsulate all the next 21 verses. Yeah. But basically the 10-syllable mantra of Tara is Om Tare Tuttare Ture Swaha.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. And I love the history part of it.
Oh, good.
That's very rich, and it is helpful.
Okay, good. Other questions or comments? Yeah, if not, next verse. Yeah, so this is verse number 1 of the original 21 verses. So here, homage to Tara, swift and courageous, gaze is as quick as flashes of lightning. That means she looks, you know, her gaze, her attention turns to you as swift, as quick as flashes of lightning, right? Now here, from Lord of Triloka, his face like a lotus. Who is this? This is Avalokiteshvara. Triloka means the 3 worlds. That means this is the name of Avalokiteshvara, one of his epithets, which is the Lord of the 3 worlds. Trilokyanatha in Sanskrit, the Lord of the 3 worlds, meaning he gives protection to all those without protection in the 3 worlds of the 3 realms of samsara. So it said that, and so this then it says, you rose on a billion-fold blossoming stamens, which is a lotus flower with a billion-fold petals. This is referring to a common story about Tara has multiple kind of origin stories. One story places her in the more human realm, where she was a princess. So there's one story like that. Another story of where Tara came from has more of what we would call a mythic telling of that. And this is what is being referred to here. So it is said that where Tara came from was that one time Avalokiteshvara, the Lord of Compassion, was so kind of moved by the suffering that he sees that he shed a tear. Now, for a 10th bhumi, a 10th level bodhisattva, or in some tantric traditions, it is said that actually Avalokiteshvara is a Buddha. For a Buddha or a 10th bhumi bodhisattva to shed a tear It's a big deal. We're not saying Buddhas and 10th level bodhisattvas are heartless, But nonetheless, to say that they shed a tear, it's a big deal. It's like exaggeration, to say that one time Avalokiteshvara was so moved by how messed up we are that he even shed a tear. But this tear, when it dropped to the ground, formed a lotus pond. And from within this lotus pond, there was a lotus that grew up miraculously and opened. When it unfolded, inside was Tara. And Tara said to Avalokiteshvara, don't give up. I will assist you until the end of samsara. And so it is said that she is the active principle of compassion. When we are in samsara, when we shed tears, our tears remain as tears. But if we're able to embody Avalokiteshvara and Tara, then each of our tears should turn into a Tara. And what Tara is effective compassion, compassion in action. That's why she's called the mother of all Buddha activities. Yeah, so Tara is compassion in action. Avalokiteshvara is the basic principle of compassion. And when that basic principle of compassion kicks into action, that's who, and that's what we call Tara. So here it says, she arose from the face of the Lord of the three worlds. And this is the reference here. Yeah. Any questions, comments for this verse? Next verse, nothing to explain. I mean, like no special vocabulary, so I'm going to skip that. Yeah. Then the next verse, 6. 7, sorry. Also, really nothing there. Except to point out, giving, exertion, fortitude, peace, tolerance, and meditation. In some commentaries, they link that to, again, the 6 paramitas, the 6 perfections of bodhisattvas. Yeah. It's a little bit of a stretch based on those words, but I have seen commentarial traditions that link those 6 to the 6 perfections. Then here, homage to you, the victorious boundless, from the Tathagata's crown emanated. So from the Ushnisha, from the Ushnisha of the Buddha, that's what is referring to, this protuberance, right? That she appeared from there, she emanated from there. There's a question, Melissa?
Yes, I was just gonna...
Yeah, just unmute and ask, no need to raise hand.
Okay.
Yeah. Just unmute and ask. Oh, everybody,
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any special significance to the blue lotus in her hand?
Blue lotus is a type of lotus. Yeah.
Yeah, but in the verse it says that there's one in her hand.
Oh, she holds the lotus. Yeah. I mean, it's a common, iconographic representation. I don't know if you're asking anything beyond that.
Any special meaning behind that blue lotus?
Nothing more than, the meaning of lotuses in that culture, which is, blooming above the dirt, blah, 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 all of that purity, Yeah.
Is there any significance to it being blue? I always think of lotus as white.
It's rarer. Pink is the typical lotus. And blue lotuses, I think if I'm not mistaken, they bloom in the night. Yeah. Right? They're most fragrant and full bloom in the night. Whereas the more typical lotus bloom in the daytime when the sun is out.
Okay. Thank you.
In page 8, Filling the Realms of Desire, this is talking about, again, samsara is divided into 3 realms. The desire realm or the sensual realm, the form realm, which is really pure forms, and the formless realm. Altogether, there are 31 planes of existence divided into 3 realms. And this is also the 3 loka. Remember 3 loka, Sanskrit at the beginning, talking about Avalokiteshvara, Lord of 3 loka. 3 is tres, 3. Sanskrit and European languages, 3. And 3 in Sanskrit, 3 loka. So one of the lokas is the Kama loka. Kama loka is the realms of desire. Kama loka. So here with the aspect and space, it's aspect and space with the Hong and Tuttara. So these again are mantra sounds. Hong and Tuttara. 7-fold worlds. This reference is a little tricky. Again, there are different attempts to explain what the 7 worlds are. One explanation is talking about the 6 realms. So 6 realms is another way of dividing samsara. Different from the 3 realms. There, it's emphasizing 5. Emphasizing the Kama loka, actually. Which is the desire realm. Within desire realm, you can subdivide into hell realm, hungry ghost realm, animal realm, human, demigod, gods. So these are the 6 realms. So what's the 7? The 6 worlds, what's the 7th? Sometimes one explanation is the 7th is the intermediate realm. Between this life and next life, there is the bardo. So that means, when it says she trampled on the 7 worlds, it's not like she terrorizes us. This is to say that she has power over all realms of existence. That's what it means here. Then here, Indra, Agni, Marut, Vishweshwara, and Brahma, these are the great gods of India. It's not accurate to say that they're Hindu. They're Indian. Commonly shared by Jains, by Buddhists, by Hindus of various types. These are all the great gods. In the commentaries for this, they link these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? 5 names to the 5 elements. Space, wind, fire, water, earth. These 5 great gods of India also is related to the 5 elements. So in a way it's saying, that even the elements and the great gods, they all venerate her. Then Vetalas, Bhuttas, Gandharva, Yakshas, these are all the ghosts and ghouls of India. It's like Lord of the Rings, you know, with their, you know, elves and dwarves and, you know, all these magical creatures. So Vetalas are what we would call zombies, I believe. Or are they vampires? Vetalas maybe are vampires, bloodsuckers. Bhutta are ghosts. Yeah. Gandharvas are said to be almost like is it elf? No. Elves. Yeah, elves. They are known for their beautiful music, and they kind of, you know, fly around with wings. Gandharvas. Yakshas are like dwarfs, but no, not dwarfs. What are those underground guys in Lord of the Rings?
Trolls.
No, not trolls. Dwarfs?
No, they're dwarves.
Yeah, dwarfs. Okay, so yakshas are like dwarfs. They're imagined as nature spirits. They are like stout. The males especially are stout and stocky. And they guard wealth underground. So I think very similar to the dwarfs. And so like Jambala is said to be actually a dwarf.
Okay, Dr. Lai.
Yes.
There's a question on the chat, and she does not have a microphone. The question is, what is the role of the gods within Buddhism? I've seen them mentioned in some places other than this text.
Oh, gods are just another form of life within secular existence. Yeah.
That was Ivan Minray.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, gods are just, you know, and of course, you know, like when you come to, devas, you know, devas are what, you know, we translate into English as gods or deities, you know. So basically, you know, the word deity or gods or Tibetan, ha. Fundamentally, there are two types of deities or two types of gods or hla. They are transcendent deities. They are Buddhas. They have transcended confusion. They are gone beyond confusion. And they are objects of refuge. Then powerful beings that inhabit this system, this world. Those are worldly gods. Those are powerful beings within samsara. Those we say we don't take refuge in them.
And then we have the Devas and the Brahmas. She wants to know about those.
What about? Sorry?
What does this mean that what does this mean that they are the Devas and the Brahmas and such?
Yeah, Devas, Brahmas, you know, Indra, all these are worldly gods. Yeah, all these are worldly gods.
But they die and suffer also.
Yes. Yeah, well, that's why I make them worldly, you know. They've not transcended samsara, you know. But, you know, we also say, you know, all these gods, right? Don't look down on them because they actually met Buddha Shakyamuni in this lifetime. But we did not, you know. Or if we did, we forgot already, you know. We missed the boat. In a way, you could say it's maybe more reassuring, you know, less embarrassing, if we say, oh no, yeah, I didn't even meet him, you know, when he lived in India 2,500 years ago. Then at least you can say, you know, that you didn't miss the boat, you know. If you met him and you're still around, then there's some explaining to do. Yeah, if you met him, 2,500 years ago, and still now you're here, and especially here listening to me, then you have some explaining to do to yourself, like what happened.
Okay, we got some more questions here.
Okay.
Would Jesus be a diva?
I don't know. That one you have to ask Jesus.
Yeah, and then we got where what? And this came from Fabula.
Okay.
Where and what is the Tara Pure Land? You have mentioned that before. And in the realm in the three worlds.
That's not in the three worlds. Pure Lands, these mysterious places that are not touched by the three worlds. Yeah, there's a lot of things to learn.
Yeah, I'm just reading chat.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah,
so Pure Lands are the cool kids table? Is that how it works?
Or the weird kids, depending on how you look at it. Joseph, table what again? Do you remember? Warren Wilson? There's a number. Table 4 or something like that. Now, page 9. Again, so there are some mantra sounds there, threat and pet. So threat and pet, these are often syllables that you find in fierce mantra, wrathful mantras. So there are some Tara fierce mantras as well. There's a tradition of as well. There is a tradition as well of each of the Tara having her own mantra. So anyway, this one it says, through pet and threat, crush every magical wheel. These are basically, magical wheel is basically chakras. So these chakras or magical wheel can be used to protect as well as to bind. So in other words, it's saying, Tara can cut through all hexes, all curses. In the end, what are hexes and curses? Beyond witches and wizards and magic, is ill will. When somebody thinks ill of you so strongly that it begins to affect you, then that can happen. So it's said then Tara, crush these evil magical wheel. Then, who conquers the most tenacious of Maras? Maras are tempters. But more generally, Mara in these texts is referring to, can be translated with the general word demons. Then there is the category or the grouping of what's known as the 4 Maras. What are the 4 Maras? First is Mara Devaputra. Mara Devaputra, Devaputra, Deva are gods, right? And Deva, Daiva, means the ones with light, Deva. So they are light beings, as in luminous. Literally, that's what Deva means. Then again, Buddhists are not the only ones who talk about Devas. All the different forms of Hinduism and Jainism and even traditions that in India that don't exist anymore today. They all talk about these devas, these light beings. So here, what are these light beings? These are, again, what we Buddhists would call worldly light beings, devas. So there's a type of tempter, a type of Mara, a type of demon that are actually Devaputras, Putra means children of light beings. And what they're referring to here is that temptation or distractions can come in the form of light beings, good conditions, and particularly they say pride. See, pride takes over when things are going really well for us. Yeah. No one who is suffering, will have a lot of pride. Pride often comes up when things are going really well. So it's like the gods, things are going so well. So they're just full of themselves. And they're so full of themselves that they cannot get it. Like, what's your problem? Why are you complaining? So that's a form of Mara. Then there is the Mara that is the personification of death and destruction. That's a type of Mara. Yeah. Then there is the Mara of afflictive emotions. Then finally, there is the Mara of the aggregates. What is that referring to? Our psychophysical processes. In other words, our body, mind. The 5 aggregates. Why are they called Maras? It's not like the 5 aggregates, the constitution of our mental, our body and mind are inherently like evil or demonic. No. It's saying that when the 5 aggregates, given their nature, which is impermanent, which is always changing, and when we cannot understand that nature and we resist that, then they turn into Maras. Then we suffer. So the 4 types of Maras, and they are really tenacious. So Tara conquers all 4 types of Maras. Afflictive emotions, not understanding the nature of the aggregates, of the psychophysical processes of our body and mind. The Mara of pride, when things are going so well, we become so puffed up. And finally, Mara, death and destruction. So thank goodness, she conquers them. So when you feel really oppressed by the Maras, you turn to Tara. Here, then now, 10, top of 10. It says, with your fingers in Mudra. Mudra is gesture. Gestures made by fingers, mudras. Mudras also mean seal. So in that sense, these gestures, they are a seal of authority. Almost like the way that, gangs have these, these gestures. It's a way of establishing contact and authority. So if you belong to the same gang, you know what mudras to show. This is a very old idea in India already. That mudras, these gestures, have power. So here, a very specific mudra is called the mudra of the 3 jewels, which is how? Like this. Don't ask me why it's not like this, okay? I have no idea. Or like this. It would seem like, this is a better mudra for the 3 jewels. Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, But, sorry, it's like this. I think it's just more elegant like this. I don't know. but this is the mudra of 3 jewels. So Tara always holds those lotuses, the blue lotus, like this. So she's displaying the 3 jewels, reminding us, that the real protection comes from taking refuge in the 3 jewels. So 10, now let's see, 11. 11, if you look at page 11, it says magnetized powers, meaning she has the power to enchant. She has the power to attract. Attract what? Attract all the positive conditions for us to not be distracted. So her powers to magnetize, here it says, gathers all the protectors of the earth to come. Amitabha is on her top knot. That signifies that she belongs to what's known as the lotus family. So this is the 5 Buddha families. A very common organizing principle in Vajrayana Buddhism. Basically organizing everything. The seasons into these 5. The directions into these 5. The elements into these 5. The confusions into these 5. The wisdoms into these 5. The directions. All of that. Colors into these 5. So the lotus family is placed in the western direction, and the lord of the lotus family is Amitabha. Page 12. Engulf in a fire like the end of the kalpa. Okay, so what is this end of the kalpa? A kalpa is a measure of time. And Indians have an incredible ability to imagine vast, vast, amounts of time. No surprise that some of the best mathematicians are Indians. They are very capable of abstract thought, but grounded in logic and big numbers. So a kalpa is like one with 13 or 17 zeros behind, depending on which source you look at. That's how long a kalpa is. Here, when it talks about fire at the end of a kalpa, it's talking about when this universe has exhausted its resources, then like anything else, it will dissolve. At the end of this universe, it will be engulfed in fires. One thing I like to point out is this. But this fire at the end of the kalpa is not a terrifying event. I think a lot of Buddhists even kind of miss this because maybe human beings have an inherent obsession with big fire burning everyone, Armageddon style. Like Judgment Day, Like during this pandemic, when it first started, somebody was circulating some termas apparently. Who knows? That talks about how, things are going to go bad, the world is going to burn up, and, lots of people are going to die. And, some people I know were quite concerned and say, do you think this is the start of that? I said, well, I don't know what to say about these predictions, but I said the earliest layer of the Buddhist discussions about the fire at the end of the kalpa, the way that happens is beings that inhabit this world are not around when this world is destroyed. It says that all the beings that are in this world will be reborn in other places. And until this physical universe is emptied of sentient beings, only then will this physical universe basically implode, not explode. It's a process of folding in. Then at the start of another universe, it's a process of unfolding. And so, in a way, like if you look at classical, the earliest layer of Buddhist text, the Buddha did not talk about end times in like terrifying terms. Yeah? FYI. If you're into those sorts of things.
Dr. Lai?
Yes.
I've read some very interesting physics lately.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very interesting to relate it to these ideas because one of the hot topics in modern science is the existence of black holes in the universe.
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically impossible for us to understand what happens in a black hole.
Yes.
Because infinite amounts of matter are going into a single point.
Mm.
And there's a lot of speculation that the emergence of these of all this matter going into black holes comes out in some other universe.
Yes.
So it's very interesting to relate a lot of the Buddhist ideas to modern physics.
Yeah.
And it's something that I find quite interesting.
Right.
It provides a framework.
Yes.
For the ideas of these infinite amounts of time, what happens.
Yes.
And it's quite interesting.
Right, the contraction of physical matter.
Yes, and it's all going into a black hole, and then what happens to it? It may come out someplace else in another universe.
According, to ancient Buddhist explanation, is that when the karma is right, when the time is right, then it begins to unfold again.
Yes. The other comment I wanted to make is that some of the other things that I've read is that the kalpa is sometimes conceived of as a world age.
Yes.
It has a beginning and, it starts and ends, although the physical processes and the matter and energy always are preserved. They just come out in different ways. So,
and also now there is a more kind of, there's a word coin called multiverse. So not just universe, like one verse. In the Buddhist view, there are multiple universes spread all throughout time, and then there can be universes within universes. So like in one of the, like fun things that, you hear on NPR or BBC, some of this documentary, I remember listening to one program talking about, it's basically talking about people who are, like all this effort to like, computers that are scanning for signals, right? To see like if we are alone in this universe or not, right? And so there's various theories as to why we have not found anyone yet, Then of course, Facebook always have all sorts of memes, that make fun of this. It's like, yes, of course there's intelligent life out there, so they are avoiding us. That itself, like it's proof that there's intelligent life out there. We have not found them because they know enough to avoid us. But, joking aside, one of the theories as to possibly why we have not found them yet is they give the example of like, what if like we are just like ants, like these insects, ants. The ants are completely unaware of my existence. Yeah, they don't have eyes to look up and go, oh, there's a guy there. Because we're infinitely so big, so huge. So it could be that all of our stories is just an ant in some other giant's universe. So that's why we have not found them. Because they're so big. This is not Buddhist, okay? This is just sort of like some of the things, you know, it's like, oh yeah, well, that's one way to look at it, right? Again, I think, you know, Buddhist tradition, I would argue, you know, one of the characteristics that is not dogmatic, I believe. So it's like, yeah, if that knowledge, you know how to skillfully engage, it can help.
The multi-universes, I consider it like blowing bubbles.
Yeah, I mean, you can, you know, there are many ways to conceive of what this is about, but a basic Buddhist discussion is like there is not just one universe, but there are multiple universes, infinite number of universes spread in all directions.
Yeah. Like
Now that
blowing
you
bubbles.
are, yeah,
Yeah, go ahead.
I know that we are talking about Buddhist cosmology. I've always been interested in the trichilocosm, the billion-fold universe.
Yeah, it just means a lot.
Yeah, but there's a line, I don't remember where I read it, but it said that one Nirmanakaya Buddha has authority over the billion-fold universe. What does that mean?
Yeah, there are things like that, you know, but I don't know. That is sounding suspiciously that Buddhists are competing with Hindus. And so if Hindu God is this powerful, well, guess what? My Buddha is this powerful.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Our Holiness, you know, he's very kind of, I would say, forward thinking, you know. And one time he said, if you look at these Buddhist texts, you know, over time, the powers of the Buddha keeps increasing. Right? And he says, and it increases to a point that from some perspective, it's a little bit kind of bordering on kind of like ridiculous. And he said, largely, he says, I think it's because they're competing with Hindus. When he said this, I know many like more like conservative monks, you know, they are like, oh, how can he say that? Luckily, he's the head of the lineage. He can say whatever he wants to say, and you can just quietly complain, you know. But for me, when I hear that, you know, I go, yeah. Where I am, you know, I'll be honest, you know, I find that compelling. But also it's good to leave a door open to say, in the end, what do I know? As in, it's possible. Yeah. So a balance between, you know, leaving space for wonder, for magic. Or as I said before, don't count on magic. Don't count on magic, but don't discount magic. Don't dismiss magic, but better not to count on magic. And that would be overall the Buddhist flavor.
I thought Vajrayana we were training to be magicians.
Oh yes, you know, but it's a different kind of magician. It's not the kind of magician where, you know, counting on magic as in, you know, like hopeful thinking. Yeah. Anyway, 12. Again, sevenfold layers of lokas. That's again that sevenfold world. 7 worlds. Then let's see, moving on, not too many. So at the bottom of page 13, arranged is the mantra by tenfold of letters. Again, that's the 10 syllables. Om tare tu tare ture soha. As I pointed out, this translation, it's done so that you can sing with that nice melody. And so it's not so exacting. If you want to, analyze the Sanskrit or the Tibetan, there are better translations for sure. This is more poetic and also taking into consideration meter and all of that. Then page 14. Here there is a mention of these mountains. Mount Meru, Mandara, and Vindhya. These are like, in India, Mount Meru is called the cosmic mountain. And when they describe it, you can't help but relate it to the Himalayas. Likewise, Mandara and Vindhya are mountain ranges that on one level is like the mythic cosmology. On another level, it can be related to actual mountain ranges in India. So Mandara and Vindhya. Here, this reference, whose hands is a deer marked. That's a poetic reference to moon. So in her hand, she holds a moon. Why the heck is she holding a moon? In India, as in I think many other cultures, the moon is related to healing. So the moonlight has the power to soothe and to heal. So that's why here it talks about like dispelling poison. Yeah, so she holds the moon as in she is a healer. Then page 15, devas, by rulers of devas, by gods and kinnaras. Yeah. So gods and devas here, same word in Tibetan. Again, because of the meter for chanting in English, the translator decided to use devas in the first case and gods in the second, but in the Tibetan it's all ha. Yeah, so no further significance. It's not like two different groups. It's talking about the king of the devas and the devas, the ordinary devas, and this another group of beings called kinnaras. Kinnara seems to be also related to music making beings. They're also sort of known for music and dance. Gandharvas more music, and Kinnaras, I suppose, is more dance. And sometimes they are described as having a horse head and human body. The opposite of a centaur, right? Which is a horse body and human head. Yeah, it's the reverse of that. Here, bottom of 15, by Tuttara and with the twice chanted Hara. Hara is another syllable. It's not part of the 10-syllable mantra, but it's a syllable that turns up in some other Tara mantras. So, FYI. Then the last page, again, Vetalas, Buttas, and Yakshas. Yeah, so that is again these kind of magical beings. So yeah, that's just quickly going over some of the more esoteric vocabulary that is in the 21 verses.
Question. So
Sure.
where right before it mentions against the Vetalas and the Bhuttas, it says through the array of the threefold thatness.
This is suchness, thatness, or suchness. The threefold suchness here is talking about denitsum. Denitsum, I believe, is talking about the three subject, object, and action. Right? In every experience, when you see something, you hear something, you smell something, you taste something, you touch something, there's always subject, object, and the experience itself. Yeah. Right now, when we don't understand that they are suchness, meaning emptiness, suchness is another word for emptiness. If we don't understand that they are empty of essence, empty of inherent existence, then we are fixated on, oh, there's me tasting, there's a taste being tasted. Yeah, that three parts of any experience. And so this is talking about, like when you understand, like all your experiences, in any experience that you have, right? It's not a standalone. There is always these three parts in any experience that we have. And in fact, these three parts depend on each other to exist. In simple terms, I think I've told this kind of joke of before, a teacher asking a kid, how old is your father? You remember this one? No? How old is your father? And this kid, very smart, he goes, 5. And then the teacher say, no, not you, your father. And he's like, 5. And it's like, how can it be 5? You are 5. He says, well, how can my father be more than 5 if I'm 5? Right? There's no father until this child was born. Right? And definitely there is no your father. Now he could be an older sister's father, but the question is your father. Well, my father, well, I'm 5, he's 5, Which is, if there are any young parents, take that to heart. Don't be so hard on yourself. We're all trying to figure it out. How to raise them, if they are 9, you are 9, Prior to that, you have no idea what it means. So that's interdependence. That is suchness. When you realize that suchness, you can pacify so much sound bites that create suffering. Good? Yeah.
I understand.
So, so today is, we're coming to an end of the first 2 weeks of the new year, which is, this month is called the month of miracles, because the first 15 days is said that the Buddha displayed magical powers, We had a discussion this morning, Wait, I thought Buddha doesn't do things like that. Oh, well, sometimes he does, And one way to understand that is he prefers to use reasoning. He prefers to lead us into clear seeing. But there is a level of our confusion that is completely unreasonable. Right? And in fact, that seems to be the more powerful layer. You know, when suffering turns up, you know, you go, I know if I get angry, it will only be worse. But guess what? I want to be angry, so leave me alone. Right? That level of, you know, unreasonableness, the Buddha has to display magical powers and shock and awe. Some of you are too young to remember that phrase, shock and awe. But sometimes, you know, Buddha, Guru Rinpoche, whatever, you know, have to use this kind of... So Buddha, in this month, it is said he did that. So it's called the month of miracles, you know. So I mentioned this already this morning, but some of you were not here this morning. So we have been doing the offering of food. Originally thought in terms of offering of food to the homeless and the beggars around the Bodha Stupa area. But now I've thought up a project, a commitment to offer food more universally, to overcome this kind of often giving is kind of hierarchical, top down, especially when we're engaging in what we call charity, top down. Like, oh, I have more, I give to those who are less. Yeah, it's very good if you're thinking of others, you know. But sometimes when we do that, we forget a more fundamental point. Why do we give? Because it's good to receive. We think we don't need. No, we all need kindness. We all could use kindness. We all need joy. We all need pleasant surprises. Even more fundamental than a person who is hungry because they are poor or because of whatever circumstance they are not able to eat. More fundamental than those circumstances is the reality that we all need to eat. And sometimes we forget that. Yeah, we all need to eat. And even those of us who can afford to eat and to buy, the fact that you are able to procure and buy food is also due to the hard labors of others. So the need to eat is universal. Sometimes we are in a circumstance where we can get food easily. Sometimes we're in a circumstance that we cannot get food easily. And that's the common denominator. So it's good to engage in giving, and especially the giving of food, where it's truly no strings attached. You don't need to justify why you would like to eat this food. And so I'm proposing this, and if you're inspired to join in this project, for next 3 months, every week, to offer 50 lunches in the Bodha Stupa area. The people that are going to be cooking and distributing the food I told them, be on the lookout for clearly the ones who need it. Of course, do that first. But after that, give it to anyone who wants it. A shopkeeper, lunchtime looking like, they have not eaten yet. A worker, anyone who wants it. As long as we have, just give. So in a way, it's also to normalize giving and receiving. And to celebrate that. So for 3 months, each week, 50 meals, 50 lunches. And I estimate that for this whole project, it will cost about US $1,800. Yeah, so soon we will have on the Drigong Dharmakirti website a way for you to participate in that. We're figuring out based on region because the transfer of funds. So in Mexico City, we're going to find a point person. And so within Mexico, you can send to this person. And then within Guatemala, they are doing something. Then within, the US, we will find different ways for us to participate in this. Yeah. So that's something to announce. And you can think, I want to give this much or this much. Basically, each meal is about $250 to $275. And they are prepared by a family that we know well. So we're also helping this mother and daughter team. And they are doing this for us. So this is something good to do. Because of the pandemic also, even people who are otherwise doing well are feeling the pressures of the pandemic in Nepal. So I have a cute name for this project. It's called More Curry, Less Worry. So this is the More Curry, Less Worry project. There's an older English, right? Some of you might know. Don't worry, chicken curry, Don't worry, chicken curry. But this one, we won't get chickens involved. We might steal some of their eggs and provide, because it's something that is considered like fancy, actually. In Nepal and India, eggs are, not like us here, eggs are so cheap. But eggs are something like fancy in Nepal and India. So when the folks who are helping us said, what kind of meals do you want to provide? I said, nice. I said, I said, let's not just like, give food that says, oh, this will not, this will save you from hunger. I said, no, we can do better than that. We should bring some surprise and joy to people, right? Not just like, oh, eat just to not be hungry. Because, those of us who are giving, we don't do that to ourselves, then so we can do, better to others. Yeah. So now, a simple dedication. It's not always the case that you have to recite a lot of things. So the meaning of this chant is good to memorize this chant in Tibetan. And in our opening and closing text, it's on page, let me look, 26. In the middle of page 26, it says bodhicitta, the excellent and precious mind. Where it is unborn, may it arise. Where it is born, may it not decline, but ever increase higher and higher. And so now the Tibetan. Changchu Semcho Rinpoche Ma Ge Pa Nam Ge Gyurche Ge Pa Nyam Pa Me Pa Yang Gone Gong Du Power Show. Okay. Good night. Good morning. Have a good day. Have a good week.
Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Gracias.